Welcome everyone to the 19th episode of the Experiment Floor. Today, as part of the 19th examination episode, we will be joined by Chief Engineer Ero as we examine the combat and field characteristics of the plasma beam. The plasma beam is notably different from most types of beam weapons in that it has been developed by a number of different groups. The three most prominent are the Chozo, who held it as a sacred and powerful weapon stronger than any other they could make in ancient times, the Space Pirates, as an altered variation that relied on heat more than the Chozo original, and the plasma cannon variation wielded by the former bounty hunter Gore, uses both an offensive weapon and a tool. The plasma beam is an extremely powerful beam weapon that is known to exist in a number of different iterations, but they are all alike in that they use plasma as the primary source of both power and for damage. The plasma itself is controlled and focused into a discernible and damaging beam by a burst magnetic field inside of the possessor's arm cannon, which generates a sort of phased plasma that heavily ionizes the air around the beam and at the target when it strikes something after being fired out, allowing the beams not only deal damage, but also pass right through multiple enemy targets in a single shot, a penetrating power that not even the wave beam on its own can replicate. In fact, this sort of unique weaponized power has only been successfully and fully copied by the Chozo that developed the original iteration, but there are others like the Space Pirates that have attempted to copy this sort of weaponry for their own purposes. This is what led to the creation of the Space Pirate Plasma Beam, which generates an extremely superheated energy core inside of the arm cannon that forces the device to extend outwards in order to reduce the heat and pressure inside to make it safe to fire. Instead of just using focused plasma to inflict damage, this iteration uses superheated plasma for its energy shots, which have been heated to such a degree that they can be fired as beams of plasma that superheat their surroundings enough to generate a strong burst of thermal energy when used, giving it a fiery elemental attribute that can burn targets and incinerate most minor creatures with a single well-placed charged shot. This version also has a counterpart of sorts in the plasma cannon iteration used by the former bounty hunter Gore, as noted already. His version of the weapon was downgraded severely in terms of power, but this was done to help stabilize the energy output of the weapon, condensing it somewhat to give each shot of it better range. Plus, it could be combined with added internal hardware to take the energy of the cannon and focus it into a tiny point so the weapon could be used as a welding tool, something that was of great use to the bounty hunter given that most of his body was machined at the time of his death. The classic Chozo plasma beam fires beams of phased plasma that are both incredibly damaging and have the capacity to pass right through multiple targets that are grouped together in the weapon's line of fire, with its charge shot really being more damaging with few other additional attributes. The Space Pirate Plasma Beam fires out beams of extremely hot plasma that can partially pierce through enemies and even set them on fire if they survive a few direct hits or a charge shot from the weapon, which is just a stronger, more concentrated beam. But the rate of fire is slightly lower than that of a standard power beam, and it generally has limited range, with the beam dispersing far more quickly after being fired compared to other types of standard weaponry. The plasma cannon iteration fires streams of superheated plasma like the Space Pirate iteration, but the shots have much greater range to them in exchange for less power. Its charge shot focuses the energy in the arm cannon more effectively to produce a fiery ball of plasma like a charge shot from a power beam, and the beam itself can actually be controlled and focused enough to use it as a tool for melting metal scrap and welding and fixing damaged electrical boards.
Well, no matter what version you end up using, this weapon is a hell of a lot more dangerous than it looks at first glance, and can make very short work of anything that stands in its way. The classic iteration might not have a ton of bells and whistles to it, but given that it just cuts right through targets caught on its firing line, you can render entire groups sitting ducks that they stupidly gather together. The Space Pirate iteration might not be quite as penetrating, but it makes up for that with incredible heat and fiery damage that can boost even the strongest of creatures. Hell, it can put down a she-god without the need for explosives, so that should give you a good idea of just what that iteration can do. And, well, the plasma cannon iteration is easily the weakest of the three, but it is also a lot more concentrated, so that thing can melt scrap metallic enemies easily. It's also my favorite of the three, because the beam is so focused that you can actually weld cleanly with it, and for an engineer like me, it's the reason why I've got one on me in the first place. I swear my life by it. This thing is hard to find, but damn worth it.
Thank you for attending this presentation on the Experiment Floor. With the power and capacity to cut right through enemies and destroy hordes at a time, and overall render itself a terrible force to be reckoned with, the plasma beam in any form is a potent weapon that can make mincemeat out of anything that isn't heavily armored. Make sure that you keep your eyes on where you're firing it though, as the capacity to cleave right through multiple targets might not be so helpful if a teammate or ally ends up behind enemy lines when you start firing this energetic weapon. Thank you all for watching this video. We here at Space Pirate Science Team take our work very seriously, and we genuinely wish to be as informative as possible when it comes to the work we conduct here, for both ourselves and in the name of science. If you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, and comment to help us get greater recognition out there to inform the greater populace of the universe as a whole. Also, feel free to keep track of us through Twitter, as we'll be posting notices there every time something new is submitted for your viewing pleasure. We hope to see you all in the next video, no matter what road it may take us to.